Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Indie Tea Demos to Discovery with me, your host, Peter Lancelotti. And today we have a guest from across the pond, Nick Davies, also known as Nick Luddite. So, Nick, you've got this extraordinary sounding Johnny Cash, like as if he had a cosmic awakening with David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. Your voice haunts the hell out of me. I love it. Who are you? Are you like some sort of god in the making here?
No, no. I'm British. I'm Welsh by heritage, so I'm not English, but I live in England, and it's quite. I mean, you kind of said that I sound a bit American, whereas most Americans, I think that must be some British heritage in you that's picking up on that, because most Americans do comment on how British I sound.
I can
Um,
I can do a British accent if I want to. I am an
I
English
know you
speaker.
can. I can do an American accent. I've actually got a daughter who I knew nothing about until earlier this year, and she's 43, and she's in Florida. So I've kind of learned a bit of American, but it's pretty bad.
Well, I
It,
can't do, the funny thing is, I can't do a Cockney accent, and I have a few friends in England, a couple of author friends, and this one guy said to me, he goes, "Oh, Peter, when you do Brit, it really is formal Brit."
aristocratic. We don't talk like that up here in the north. I'm in Sheffield, which is kind of your version of Pittsburgh. I By the way, I'm no longer with Luddites UK.
Oh,
We took the most amicable decision to go separate ways. But I never sang with Luddites UK anyway.
did
Um,
you do most of the writing though? Because I could.
no, no, no. I write and play all of the Nick Luddite stuff. Nobody else does anything on that at all. That's just me. Luddites UK, a guy called David Pascal was the lead singer and the lyricist. So I certainly was involved in creating an awful lot of the music.
Well, I
But
noticed like, your style seems to be much more, what's the word, metaphysical, uh,
yeah,
prog rock. Actually, I heard a couple of you. I was listening to your whole channel earlier, and you go from country to prog rock to spacey psychedelic to a variety of different things, which is what most of us indie artists do, making us hard to categorize. And as
yeah.
you've seen in my promo, makes us hard to, the algorithms don't know what to do with us. But one of our friends, John from Whiskey Club, explained that to me the other day. So when you see his episode, you'll hear some very interesting stuff. So this haunting voice, which I love. When you told me that when you write music, it's kind of whatever comes out on a particular day, and that you don't really have control over it. So would you say that you're musically possessed? Should I call it exorcist?
I think it comes from a spiritual place for sure. I mean, in terms of the voice, it's only been since 2022 that I actually opened my mouth and started singing. So I've been in bands since 1974.
Well,
Now,
you're
obviously,
probably older than me because I've been in band since 1979 and I was 17.
I think a couple of years older than you, Peter. Yeah, yeah. But of course, there's the preservative effects of the rock and roll lifestyle that
Low
used to happen.
lighting, low lighting.
Well, yeah, 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 low lighting. So yeah, it's only pretty recently that I've done solo stuff. I've always played in bands. I've always like created and arranged the music. Um, but I was very much sort of a musician and nothing else. And it's only because I finally started to get to grips with all of this technology we now have, that sort of Nick Luddite came into being. I love listening to Americans try to pronounce Luddite,
Luda,
uh, Luddite,
right. Well, some
but
people say
eventually,
Luddite, some people say Luddite. Yeah,
Well, no, I've had Luddite, I've had Luddite.
yeah.
I guess Americans don't really understand what the Luddites were, and there's no reason they should, because it's very much a part of English history back in the Industrial Revolution. I'm in the north of England, as I've said, and this is where all the work traditionally has got done. And then down in the south of England, in the home counties around London, that's where the powerful have got rich on the back of it. So if we go to the Industrial Revolution, weavers that used to, hand weave in the old style, and then they brought in these automated looms, which were brilliant because they could do the job of 30 men in a fraction of time.
Like
Uh,
robotics taking over the world.
yes, which was all well and good, but what this meant is that the men and the women basically got turfed out of their jobs, and very often they were living in houses in accommodation that were tied to whatever factory they worked for, and there was no unemployment benefit or anything like that in those days. So, their livelihoods and their homes were pretty well. England's got a really inglorious history of all of that sort of stuff, by the way, and not just on these shores, but all over the world. Um, so a bunch of guys basically revolted, and they used to smash up these infernal new machines. And most of them were arrested and stuck on prison ships out to Australia.
I
Uh,
forgot what country it is, but there was a shoe. I think it's maybe the Dutch. They had shoes that were called sabots. And when they were revolting against the mechanized world, they used to throw them into the machines to break them. Hence the word sabotage.
ah, brilliant,
Hmm.
brilliant. That sounds more French, really, doesn't it? Sabotage. But so Luddites or the principles of it, it's not against progress. Um, in whatever guise progress might dress itself up as. I mean, we've got it now, obviously, with AI as well, but it's more against what the powerful do to the non-powerful. Um,
Well,
within
that's been going on since time immemorial.
yes, yes, and the Luddism under General Ned Ludd, which is also the name of my drum machine, was simply a staging post, as you draw that line from time immemorial, when the peasants revolt and the peasants are beaten down.
And that is where Luddite comes from.
Yeah, yeah.
Being part of the UK indie scene and with this extraordinarily fabulous American sounding voice, does that create any interesting tensions or opportunities for you, or are you confusing the hell out of audiences who expect tea and crumpets and get Cosmic Cowboy instead?
Uh, um, well, I must say that, when I check out, who my listeners are on Spotify and what have you, it's overwhelmingly American,
I
by a
can
long
see that.
way.
I can see why.
But well, I've always thought part of the reason for that is that what I do, you've said it's, us indie folk are difficult to categorize. And we kind of jump around all over the place in terms of what happens to come out. So I've always thought there's going to be a relatively small bunch of people who are going to actually, enjoy what I do, really, if they get to hear it. But a relatively small bunch of people in the States, as a percentage of the population, is obviously massively bigger than a similar percentage of the UK population. So I've kind of assumed that that's
Well,
why.
I'll bring up something that Whiskey Club brought up. As we associate, because I mean, I myself, another indie artist, I've done classical, rock, jazz. I've done all kinds of genres of music. Recently, I even did an a cappella Kyrie eleison, which I mixed horribly. The thing is, we are very difficult to categorize. And John of Whiskey Club was telling me that when we align ourselves with other artists that are as weird as we are, the algorithm will start to know. That was one of the things, that was one of the reasons I started the show. I wanted to understand, first of all, I want to create community amongst us as musicians, listeners, as well as would-be published artists to help them out. The other thing was I wanted to understand, like, how on earth do we get ourselves known? We don't have large marketing budgets like, traditional record houses. And John was saying that if we align ourselves with the right people, like if, I listen to your stuff, you listen to my stuff, whoever listens to your stuff might also listen to my stuff because the algorithm will put them in front of them. So that's kind of what he was saying. I want to get into your new release. Now, I know I have dibs on Doppelganger, and I'm gonna tease people on that one. They're gonna have to come to my Patreon account to see that one until you release it. But your most recent release before that was supposedly Celibate Priest. Wow. I'm an ex-Catholic, so I really identify with that one. It's really a provocative title. What inspired that song, and are you taking on institutional hypocrisy with your cowboy sensitivities? Is there a deeper story here? Supposedly celibate priest. Tell me about that.
Right. Well, that goes to the very root of my songwriting, really. And now the audience will know, that I am an addict and an alcoholic who has been in recovery for a few years now. And it's nearly killed me, and it didn't. And so, I'm grateful and joyous that I'm still here, in this particular mortal dimension, walking around still in this meat suit. But since I started to get well, I've been on a hell of a journey, and it's it's a very spiritual journey that has delivered to me or restored to me a faith. Certainly isn't in the sense of any, what I would say, man-made religion, although it is in gods or a gods or whatever it is, I don't know, but I sense it being there. I know that it is, and it's got me through what I ultimately came through. I mean, they say the touchstone, pain is the touchstone of all spiritual growth, because it should be Ben and Jerry's, right? But
But
it's not.
one of the songs that I really liked, but and that's blasphemous to even say it, but I don't care. Your God is going to hate you.
Well, it comes from the same thing, really, because I'm on a kind of spiritual journey, which I love. I am not any sort of fan of any man-made religion, because I think what they've done is they've taken the original messages, and by the way, those messages say Christ or Allah or whoever by a hell of a long time.
Have you
And
read
what?
any of Have you read any material like about the Freemasons or the Rosicrucians or the
Oh
Theosophists?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So has Whiskey Club, and so have I. And the book you're reading, I think, Her Immortal Menagerie,
Yeah.
is based on theosophical teachings.
Well, this and it resonates a lot, which is, having discovered you, that was why I bought it and started to read it, and it just resonates so much with me. But what happened is that men, and it's always men. Well, on very very few occasions throughout history, it's been women, but generally men have like taken that message and they've applied all sorts of bells and whistles to it, the sole purpose of exercising power over other people and controlling them. So we can witness the results of that throughout history, and we can witness it right now in terms of what's happening in the Middle East and everything like that. So I don't have a right lot to do with organized religion, man-made religion at all, because to me it's not kept true to the original, the universal message and power that I feel that exists. So your God is going to hate you. A lot of my writing is autobiographical, and obviously going through what I did with alcohol and drugs, I've got a hell of a lot of stories.
And that's probably the basis of a lot of your inspiration. You said someone gave you a bad review recently on
It wasn't bad. They described disturbing.
disturbing.
Yeah, they used some nice adjectives, but disturbing was in there. So that means in a small way, it's kind of done its job. And that person also said that they'd had a Catholic upbringing as well. But so your God is going to hate you. That's about a Christian person I know who preaches quite widely, whether he wants it or not, but doesn't live their life in something that I would remotely describe as a Christian manner. So, they pretty well break every one of the Ten Commandments, and yet they'll preach. And, your God is going to hate you is basically about them. And they've probably heard it and they probably haven't even realized, but it's about them.
It made
Whereas,
me think, it made, when I heard it and I listened to your lyric, I have to listen to it a few times to really get the lyrics, because your lyrics are extraordinary. You seem to, you're one of those writers that you have a message in every single line and it strings together a short story. Actually, it strings together a very long story that you could probably write a novel about. But the one thing that really struck me was when you were describing how when you say your God is going to hate you, I got the impression that it's not that your God is going to hate you, it's that you're going to really kind of hate your God if you find out that God's not who you think it is. And I say it. Like George Lucas called God the Force, probably the best definition I've ever heard of God.
yeah.
Where this he, she, Wiccan, Catholic, I don't know where all that came from. He, she, but I would have thought that God was it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the message I got from your God is going to hate you, that really you're going to hate your God when you find out what it is.
Yeah.
And we won't go into that because you're reading about what I think it is.
Right. Well, I look forward to getting to that bit. Celibate priest, that's the recounting of a period of time I spent with a priest.
Not in a nefarious way, I hope.
They were far more rock and roll than
Oh,
I could ever be. God knows they were, but they were actually quite a dangerous person because obviously being a priest, they had a degree of power over their flock or what have you, and they very, very roundly abused it. And the other one you mentioned isn't going to be released for a while, but Doppelganger, and that one
I liked
basically.
it. I liked it. Very different. It's like every time I hear a new song from you, it's like a genre that's like, whoa. First I
Well,
heard, then there's country, then there's prog rock, then there's spaciness, and then there's this Johnny Cash kind of thing. You are so creative, and you don't limit yourself to any
it's not
particular genre.
that's not me. It's just whatever happens to happen when I come into the room that I'm in now, and I don't really control that. It's whatever happens. But I mean, Doppelganger is about the potential brittleness of recovery, because my life over the last few years has been very, very, very different to how it had been before.
Can I
Uh,
ask you a direct question? When did you stop all of the madness of addictions?
6 years.
6 years. Okay. 20.
So that's how long this journey's been going, and I'd call it a rebirth. So that person that I no longer recognise, but who I write about sometimes, is just under the surface, and it would take nothing for me to become that person again. And I'm aware of that. I mean, if you're an addict, you are an addict. You're never a recovered addict. It's just that it'll have been a period of time since you last used whatever it was that you use.
So the doppelganger is the doppelganger the person that could go back?
I still glimpse him. I mean, there's the line there that I hear him as a whisper and things like that. I mean, I could go back, yeah. I make the choice today not to, and I don't ever want to because, quite frankly, given my physical health at the time that I did stop, I probably wouldn't last very long if I ever picked anything up again. But I actually don't feel any need to because the only way I could address it really was through taking a spiritual path and, finally admitting that I'm perhaps not God. Um, but I can't ever be complacent, and I know that my next drink is that far away. If the right circumstances happened somehow.
I quit alcohol myself, honestly, in the year 2020, when my husband died in 2019. I went through 6 months of morning until night drinking and trying to destroy every possible relationship I had had for 40 years. I succeeded with about half of them, and half of them forgave me. Some of them did not. I don't blame them. I blame myself.
Oh yeah, same with me. Totally same with me. And all I can do now is what I call make a living amends, particularly to my family. I've got 5 kids. I only thought was 4, obviously, until earlier this year.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Someone showed up at your door.
Metaphorically speaking, yeah, because she's in Florida and I'm in Sheffield. But yeah, that was pretty amazing. That kind of takes your legs from under you.
You just met your a new daughter.
Yes, I met her in June for the first time. It was quite beautiful, and she met all my other kids. It was also very tragic because I've got another daughter and 2 granddaughters in Melbourne.
Same.
Uh, so obviously, that daughter wanted to come over to be part of the grand reveal when her previously unknown big sister was coming over for the first time, and so she came over with the 2 girls. And sadly, while she was over, her husband died. Very healthy, completely unexpectedly, and you know,
Is it a beautiful reunion? Like overall, do you still talk?
yes, and she'll be back over in December.
I'm very happy for you. That's really
Um,
good news. You,
but the weird,
you sounded a little bit upset when you wrote about it in an email, and I said, well, you know, I don't, I didn't really know you well enough at the time to give you an opinion one way or another.
well, I was discombobulated rather than upset. It kind of ruffled my feathers because it was,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
a little traumatic to have to. Hi, Dad. I what?
yeah. So the other kids have all said, right, nobody's allowed to send DNA samples off anywhere ever again. Five's enough. Five's enough.
That's
But
funny.
the weird thing was, at the time, we've since discovered that she had discovered I was almost certainly her dad and was plucking up the courage to tell me. I was in this room with a bit of flu, writing Cavalcade of the Dead. And Cavalcade of the Dead is all about how you never really escape from your past as much as you'd quite like to. And your past does have this habit of coming back at you from time to time. And so that must have been in my mind about, pondering the past and what might catch up with me. And as I'm doing that, this woman in Florida, however many thousand miles away, is discovering shit. I have got a dad, and he lives in Sheffield, UK. And then the
She
single,
just showed up. She didn't like give you any warning or anything. Like,
oh no, her mum got in touch with me first through Facebook Messenger.
oh, okay. I was just gonna say I would have freaked out if somebody just knocked on my door and you open the door expecting like maybe the mailman or FedEx. I'm your daughter. Oh, very nice. Do
Yeah,
come with tea and crumpets, and maybe like another stiff drink for me. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I should take it. I don't want to make fun of sobriety. This you've been releasing consistently since 2022. What is your approach, since we're coming towards the end of our time here? What's your approach to building community for uncategorizable, haunting music that you write? Because let's face it, the algorithm doesn't really like weird people like us,
Yeah.
because I'm one of them. So, what's your idea for marketing?
But I don't actually make much effort at all with marketing it. I think my audience will always be pretty limited by what I'm going to call the mainstream people would consider the weirdness of it. um, and that's me. I just, I do it because I have to, and it's a really important part of my ongoing recovery. And
Comes
once
from your heart. I can tell that your music comes from your heart. If
soul,
soul, heart, all chakras, if your
yeah,
music could communicate one cosmic truth to listeners, the way the planets speak to each other in my trilogy, what would that message be?
vibrates in a nice way. Because as we know, the universe and everything in it is vibrating. It's all vibrations. It's energy waves and it's vibration, and that's the sum total of everything. What I try to do with my music is to get it to vibrate in a positive way rather than give off negative vibrations. And what I mean by, suggesting to people that they vibrate in a nice way, I suppose what I mean there is be kind and don't be a dick.
I was someone had
Embrace the positive energy, embrace the positive vibrations. I've just done a song actually called We All Vibrate.
And we got to look for what we have in common, not what our differences are. Because I notice, like here in America, Republican, Democrat, they're going further and further left and right. The left is so far left, they sound as weird and crazy as the right. I don't even identify. Someone asked me my political affiliation. I said, same. They said, what? I said, I'll spell it for you. SANE, sane.
I like that. Well, I mean, we're all brothers and sisters, and I know that sounds trite and hippyish, but it's actually true because we all come from that same tiny, tiny, unimaginably tiny little bit of space dust. The Big Bang, and Christ knows what was there. That was a pun
Probably,
intended.
I was going to say probably Christ. No, I was just kidding.
Yeah, God, well, God does know what was there before that. But I mean, basically, bang, and we're all children of the universe. We're all part of exactly the same massive, great big bang of energy and stardust, and we're all everything's connected. That everything's conscious, everything's connected.
I'm
So
talking about magic with we might get cut off here shortly because we're at the end of the 10 minutes. I was talking about somebody about magic, and they were very into symbology and putting the robes in the hood, and it's got to be a full moon, and it's got to be a staff with a quartz crystal and an amethyst. And I said, this is something I learned about magic. Magic is a strong intention with a thought form that is clearly established. And some people who are, mute and can't talk, if you can think it in a voice, that's what rhythm is all about. That's why we rhyme. Rhyming is, people don't even understand that rhyming is like casting a spell. If it's very, if it rhymes, then you have a rhythm going on. And that rhythm, if it's got a strong intention and a thought form that is clearly established, that is magic. Well, I want to say, Nick, thank you so much for being with me today here on Indie Tea with me, your host, Peter Lancelotti.
I've seen you as a victim, calling out your pain. gain. Pain that cannot heal from unforgiven slights. Oh, where did this come from?